Hello and welcome to the Quaintrell podcast. Quaintrell, a woman who emphasizes a life of passion expressed through personal style, leisurely pastimes, charm, and a cultivation of life's pleasures. I am Sil Annan, and I invite you to join me in exploring and savoring life's riches and the beauty that surrounds us. In the company of friends, we can laugh, discover, appreciate, and support each other. So I hope that you will join me, where I will talk about everything that makes up the rich and diverse fabric of a delightful life. Let's cultivate vibrant conversation together. Welcome. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I hope you had a great week since the last time that we got together. I'm going to get right into my In the Company of Friends talk with my friend Anthony Hromadka. He is an artist, photographer, former assistant park ranger with the California State Park System, a gardener, a nature enthusiast. He's also a survivor of both a triple bypass surgery and a foot and ankle amputation in the past year alone. So we are going to cover everything from the Nazi history of the former Murphy Canyon Ranch site, which is in Rustic Canyon, and it was one of Anthony's sites while he worked for the California State Park System, as well as more about his time there. And of course, the major surgeries that he experienced in the past year, overcoming depression, getting his health back, and a new prosthesis that will allow him to walk again. So I'm super excited about this. It was a really great talk. I hope that you enjoy it. Be sure to check the show notes because I will be posting what we talked about, links to everything, and I will also be posting pictures on the socials. So check those out. Oh, and there was also a small headphone fiasco. There's always something, right? I had my headphones on, but not plugged in for about an hour of this interview. So you will hear me actually talking over Anthony. Anthony, I am so sorry again. But it's because I really couldn't hear him. So without further ado, here is Anthony Hromadka.
Okay. Well, it's good to be here.
I am so excited that you're here. I'm just super glad that we get to just catch up again. And I super appreciate you being on the episode.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to do this.
So the other day we were getting ready to talk about Rustic Canyon.
Oh, yeah. You were saying that something happened to you there?
Yeah. So ages ago, I learned about this old Nazi stronghold holdover that was there at Rustic Canyon. And it had, all of this legend and lore that went along with it. And I really wanted to check it out. I thought it was crazy that there were Nazis in the United States, which, since then I've learned that there were a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. And there were groups campaigning to Americans to get them to sympathize. Mm-hmm. And, trying to remember what the whole story was, but there was a couple and they were tasked with building a compound for Nazis and the officers and soldiers. So they found this location in Rustic Canyon and they started going about building underground tunnels and all of this interesting stuff there. And amazingly, the architect that they chose was a renowned African-American architect named Paul Williams. And Paul Williams is known as the architect to the stars. So he is the architect that designed the George Jetson looking spaceship restaurant that's over at LAX.
Oh, really?
He did, yeah. And he designed Lucille Ball's home, and he designed a fortress, I mean, like a whole compound for Nazis.
I
And
didn't know that. I'm
it's,
trying to think if I knew that. I don't think I knew that.
oh, it's the irony of this. And I don't know enough of the story. Like, was he bamboozled by these people who were keeping it top secret? I would imagine that, you don't walk around as a Nazi going, hey, by the way, want to build a compound here, and we're going to have like military exercises at night, and come help us build, I mean, I know
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. And so I don't know if Paul Williams knew who he was building for, or, maybe he just thought, well, it's really good money, and that's not part of what I get paid for to decide if it's morally or ethically okay to do a project. I don't know at all what he thought, but those are some of the things that sometimes I think about, because it's just ironic that you've got these people coming in and then they're picking an African-American man to build their compound. But he did start it, and my understanding is that they started bringing over like horses and soldiers, and they would have maneuvers at night, and, like start firing guns at 3 a.m. And the neighbors would complain like crazy. I don't even understand how they got to stay open.
I need to research this. Where did you find this information?
Oh my God, it's like all over the internet. If you look up Murphy Canyon Ranch, that's what it's under, Murphy Canyon Ranch, not Rustic Canyon. And so, this is Pacific Palisades. I mean, this is like...
Yeah, well, back then it was just growing.
Right. But it was just still kind of not where you would expect any of this. And that's why, because it was a newly growing area. The day after the Pearl Harbor attack happened, the FBI raided because they had been keeping tabs on what was going on in the compound. Like somehow somebody tipped them off that there was Nazi activity going on there. I'm sure that just the gunfire alone was enough for them to go.
Well, there was also a little artist colony down there.
Well, that was after. Yeah. So the day after Pearl Harbor happened, the FBI went in.
Oh.
And they arrested that couple. And there was actually a third man there who I believe was kind of like higher ranking or something within the Third Reich. And he ended up being placed in prison. The other two, I don't know what happened to them. And I believe that the third man ended up dying in prison. And the place remained vacant for quite some time. And eventually it became the artist colony that you're talking about. And Red Skelton was one of the artists there. Uh-huh. And at some point, I think it was in the 70s, maybe, a fire raged through there and just
1978.
78. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like nobody went there. Well, there was this revival because of all of these stories that are out there. And now, if you go and you look up Murphy Canyon Ranch, this is what you find on it.
You got to look up Randy Young, Betty Lou Young, his mother. They wrote books on this subject and about the Palisades. Okay. They're pretty much the town historians.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to check it out. Well, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to go to Europe on a study abroad program, and it was part of I was in an honors program, and it was part of that program. So I went with the honors history and the honors music classes. Yeah. And it was the most in-depth, amazing tour of Europe. But of course, because it was history, it included a lot of detail regarding World War II. So we did visit Mauthausen, which was the last death camp to be liberated and we went to Eagle's Nest. And while we were at Eagle's Nest, I was the only one that had taken some time to try to learn German, and I learned just enough to be dangerous.
Uh-oh.
So I understand that Eagle's Nest is closed now, but at the time it was open. So we drove up this mountain in the Alps there, and they drilled a shaft into this mountain peak, and there's an elevator in it. So we went into that elevator, came out into what was Hitler's Alpine retreat right up there on top of the world. It was just spectacular. Like, you're standing up there and it feels like, you can touch God's feet, because it's the clouds are just coming down on you, and you just see peak after peak after peak, and it's just glorious.
Wow.
So I feel really fortunate to have been able to go up there, but I don't know why the tour ended up being set up for like 3.5 hours there. And there was only so much to see. I told a couple of the other students that we were with, like, I was watching this PBS show, and at the end of the war, we did a surgical strike on Hitler's home in the Black Forest at the base of this mountain. And I bet you I could find the entrance based on, watching this PBS show. And they're all like, let's go do it, because we didn't really have anything to do. So I went over to one of the bus drivers and told him in German that we'd missed our tour bus. And he was like, oh, get on. I'll get you back down to the bottom of the mountain. So we did that, and we actually found that opening. I mean, it was exactly like it was on PBS, and there were signs all over the place that said verboten on them, and which means forbidden, no trespassing. And I'm like, okay, there's no guards around. So we went in.
Oh, Syl, you're awesome.
I don't know. There's a thin line between courage and stupidity. Sometimes you land on the right side of that line. And that was one of those days. So we went in there, and at first I thought, this is not the right place. And after walking a bit, you start seeing the swastikas and the Heils and, like all the odes to Hitler and whatnot. And so we arrive to this little foundation that should have been taken over by the forest. But because so many people knew about this, so many people must have watched that PBS special along with me. I'm sure that, like a lot of people knew about this, but people disturbed the area enough that vegetation was not growing over a little bit. Like, there would be like some rebar or a little bit of like wrought iron fence and a tiny bit of foundation. You could still see where the house had been. So we keep walking down this trail, and there were some more homes, because the architect had a home there, and I don't remember who else's homes were there. I did know it at the time. And they were just filled with graffiti, just gutted, filled with graffiti, forest growing all around them, and just these relics of World War II. And so then we kept walking, and you wouldn't think that, being in Germany in the Black Forest, that it would be hot, but it was very humid, and we didn't have any water with us because, this was like a last minute decision to, see if we could talk somebody into bringing us down to the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
And so we, we're walking a little bit more, and we come out onto this rolling hillside. I mean, it's just bucolic, like the forest ended and there was just grass, and you're expecting Heidi to come dancing and singing out behind one of the pine trees there, and there's like cows munching this grass, and they look like, you see those commercials for the happy California cows. These were definitely happy cows. They were so beautiful, and just like the whole scene was so lush and glorious. And on the other side of these cows was a trough with like a half pipe running up this mountain and pouring down the half pipe. I mean, just like tumbling down was this melted snow water that was just flowing into this trough. So we go racing past the cows and we get to this trough and everybody stopped because there was a little tiny sign on a post in front of the trough. And it was, of course, in German. So they're like, oh, Sil speaks German. So they pushed me in front of the sign and it said, here's where it got dangerous. It said to me, keine Trinkwasser. And I'm like, keine, I don't know what keine means. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, but German's a lot like English. Like trink is drink, Wasser's water. So keine must be kind, as in good drinking water. And that's all I had to say. Everybody's like pouring water over the top of ourselves, just drinking tons of this water. It was honestly the most delicious water I have ever had. At least my memory is like, there will never be water that tastes this good again in my life. I'm like, the cows look happy. They drink this water. It must be good, We got, like better than drinking Dom Perignon. We drank this crystal clear melted snow water. And by the time we got back out, the bus was just arriving. Like we coincided with our bus. And I asked the tour guide, his name was Daniel, what keine meant. And he's like, keine. And I'm like, yeah, like keine Trinkwasser. And he's like, oh no, kein Trinkwasser. It means don't drink the water. And I'm like, oh my God. Everybody's head like flipped around like, what? And I'm like, he goes, did you drink the water? I'm like, yeah, is that bad? And he's like, well, it's a 2-hour drive. We'll find out. And
oh my God.
Nobody got sick.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, which was great. And then the next day we're in Vienna. And so there's like this little spigot with like an inch of soot and it's dripping and the water is like black and disgusting. And there's a little sign on a chain on it that says kein Trinkwasser. And I'm like, see, if that water would have looked like this, I would have been like, kein means don't.
Right.
So, I have learned a lesson. I now know what kind means, which I should have known before I went, but I don't know. Like I said, I just learned enough to be dangerous. But I spent a lot of time in Germany and Austria, and we went to Prague in the Czech Republic, and it was like really pretty amazing. So I'd already had that history. And then I'm like, wait, what? There's like a Nazi stronghold that was here in Los Angeles. I have got to go and see this. So I got a couple of girlfriends together and each one of them brought a child. And we went over for an amazing hike. There's a fire road that you take, and then there's a bunch of stairs that go down. I don't know, 500 steps going down. And the weird thing was, when we got to the bottom of those steps, I turned around to take a picture going up, and the grass, it was very tall grass, like kind of, it wasn't pampas grass, but it was, like fluffy on the top like that. Those blades and stems had folded from either side of those steps, had folded across almost like they were denying you entry to go back up. It was so crazy. It was like the craziest thing. And I'm like, oh, God, that's so weird, So then we kept walking. And the first thing we came upon was the gas tank. They had a gas tank there. I think it held like 10 or 20,000 gallons of gas or something like that. I mean, it was like really big. And everything had been graffitied over, but it was still there and very sturdy. And then you continued on and you came upon the tank that was going to hold water. And that was like 500,000 gallons of water for this dam, which of course was totally empty. And there were some, like people had gone down there to do some gladiator fighting or something. Then you continued on the path and the path turned down. And eventually there were like gardens and sniper holes with like these windows there, and you could see the tunnels, and there were stairs just going on. It looked like a fun house. Everything was graffitied. It was very quiet. It was super desolate. It was away from everything. And it just had this very creepy feeling about it. So I'm looking around, and then
that was the generator house.
Then you get to the generator house. Yes. And we went inside of there, and you could climb up a ladder and get on a catwalk at the top. But there were holes in the floor everywhere.
Yeah.
If you weren't careful, you could fall in there, and they were all full of just junk and trash, needles, whatever, you name it, it was in there.
Yeah.
And then you can continue beyond that, and you got to the carriage house. And I'll find the pictures and I'll post some of these because it was
I'd like to see them.
Really creepy. Somebody had drawn this bloodthirsty wolf with a knife with eyes that kind of like followed you when you moved around. And across the arch, it said Camp Rape. And I'm like, okay,
That's horrifying.
I want to say it was 2011.
Okay.
It's been a while, and off to the side, it said in huge, huge letters, "Waking Up the Beast." And, and then there's all like this Nazi sympathy stuff and lyrics from the Misfits. And I was just like, okay, there's 3 girls here and 2 kids. And I look at my girlfriends, and one of them's like walking after butterflies to take pictures of these butterflies. And I really started to feel this sense of danger. And my,
yeah.
Because there was nobody else around us, and it was just very ugly stuff that was there. And I turn around and I see these skinheads, like 3 of them with pit bulls walking towards us and like kicking up dust around themselves. I mean, they looked like so menacing, and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, all right, you guys, we got to get going. We got to get going. And one of my friends had cut herself, and she's like, hang on. And she pulls out her little dressing kit, and she's like very carefully like pulls out the alcohol pad, opens the packet, wipes up the little bit of blood. And then she has to go and find the little Neosporin, and she puts that on there, and she gets a Band-Aid. And I'm like, hurry up. We're going to like die. I mean, this is not going to be a good thing. And I don't know how they didn't see these guys, like, thank God they went over to the generator house. And when we walked by, they were just sitting there kind of glaring at us. And so I didn't feel good about it. And I was like trying to get them to keep going. And for some reason, they did not realize that these people were there. And I kept looking over my shoulder until I felt a little bit safer. And rather than going back up all of those stairs, we went out the gate, which was a magnificent scrolled iron. And we're walking back along that fire path. And I'm like asking the girls, I'm like, oh my God, that was so scary. Did you guys see those skinheads and their dogs? And they're like, no. I'm like, what? Okay. So now I'm thinking I'm losing my mind. Like, I was hallucinating, because nobody saw them except for me. And so we run into this big group of like multinationality kids, like college kids. And they stopped and they're like, yo, do you guys know where that Nazi place is? So I'm like, okay, yes. And, they were like super excited. I'm like, there's a bunch of skinheads over there right now, though. And they didn't seem to be troubled by it. I mean, there were like 7 or 8 of them. They're like, oh yeah, there's enough of us. We can take them. And I'm like, okay, they got dogs. So I gave them my map because I had it wasn't a map, but it was the list of instructions that somebody had kindly put up online for anybody who wanted to go and check out this place.
Yeah.
And as I had my back towards the gates that we had come out of, and Stephanie and Laura had kind of like moved in front of me, and we're on the same side looking back towards the gate, like looking at me while I'm talking to these people. And I just see both of their faces, kind of their mouths go into these O's and their jaws dropped. And Stephanie's like, "Is that who you were talking about?" And I turn around, and here comes the skinheads and their dogs, and they're walking like in this giant cloud of dust. I mean, they look like demons coming out of hell walking towards us.
Oh,
and
God.
Now we're in this giant group, right? We've got like 8 people plus the 5 of us.
Yeah.
So they looked like they were going to go right through the middle of us. Like, you know, they were the bowling ball and we were the pins that they were going to knock. And I just kind of like stood my ground. I don't know if some of them were shocked or some of them were just like pissed at seeing like this much hatred. You know, it's offensive. It was offensive, the level of just aggression that they were holding. And they got pretty close to us, and then they split up into 2 groups and went around us and just kept walking, left us alone. So that was my experience there. It wasn't like, I'm really glad I got to see it. And I went there specifically because I'd been to Europe and done so much history study of World War II during college, and had seen so many places that this was just kind of like just continuing. It's like right here in my own backyard. And
Yeah.
they did raise the place about 3 years ago, I think. It wasn't too long ago, but like now it's a park, and everything's gone. Every single
Oh,
one of
thank God.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
because I've been waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So they got rid of it because it was just becoming such a huge nuisance.
And
Exactly.
I would hike alone and come across people like that near the generator house. And that was even before, I mean, that was back in the mid 90s. So.
Yeah. You know, because like I said, the tunnels were still there. I mean, there were these long, skinny ladders and you could just go down into them, but they were filled with water and nasty stuff in there. But we did climb down into one just to check it out. And you could see that there was a lot of like paintballers would go there because how fun. You get to run through tunnels and you get to run through these firing runs and stairs and crazy buildings and stuff. Yeah, it eventually had to go. So it's gone. I feel, you know, like I said, fortunate that I was able to see it, but it was a very creepy place. And I think that it's for the best.
Yeah, it did definitely happen. And over in Rustic Canyon, there's more going on than just the Nazis, but because a lot of people wanted to focus on that, all sorts of legends and stories came out of there.
Like what?
But, well, like, you know, one of the guys, the sympathizers, was Herr Schmidt. He'd go to the top of trail up there, up to above the camp. He'd go up to the top of the mountain and transmit stuff to, I guess, a Nazi sub off the coast or whoever was listening. And then there was also the, was it brown shirts, who would patrol up and down the canyon. Cause some problems. Got to look it up.
Yeah, I pulled up a little bit of information. Owner in 1933 was Jesse M. Murphy, which is why I guess it's called Murphy Canyon. At this point, I do need to correct something. Paul Williams did not design that entire compound. He only designed that ornate entrance gate. So I don't know who built the rest of the compound, but I need to correct
Hmm.
that. I have not gone back. I really should go back and see what it looks like now. But I think when you said Herr Schmidt, that was the guy that ended up in prison and he ended up dying.
Yeah. Let's both go back together.
Let's do it.
When,
I think that would be
yes,
so much fun.
give me like a month after I get my new leg, and I will totally go down there with you and tell you about stuff. And I want to see it. I want to see that those buildings are gone. And I mean, there are some buildings there that are still probably hidden in some of the overgrowth out beyond those buildings on the trail. Because I came across all sorts of stuff, greenhouses. There was a little shack, nice home back in the early 90s. And I don't know if a lot of that stuff is still
Yeah,
there or
I
not.
think now that you said that, there was it looked like there was a trail, and I'm sure that at one time there was a greenhouse or some sort of conservatory that then was like overgrown with ivy and all this stuff, and it was just impassable at that time. So I think maybe I did see that, but it was that. There's two things that I want to come back to for you to talk about. One of them is when you were working with the Forest Service, was that one of your sites there, Rustic Canyon?
Yeah, California State Parks.
Mm.
Yeah, Rustic Canyon. I used to hike in there all the time. Just it's a nice getaway. Um, yeah, you could enter from the neighborhood up near Amalfi. You could also enter across from the polo field, down this trail and across these bridges, which is now some of the bridges are falling apart. So beware, walk very carefully. But that goes down to the stream. And then you can walk up the stream up to the waterfall going over a dam. And just before you get to that, there's a trail that goes up above the waterfall. And that you take across the creek. It gets really jungle-like and forest-like. And up there, you'll start passing some old buildings. And one of the first things you come across are stables that were there from Happy Valley Farm. There used to be a riding school down there. They're all grown over. And then you go up, and Will Rogers, the site of his old cabin he used to have down there, which burned in the 78 fire. And then there's the rusted building. People have just pulled it apart, and actually some things there they've made art out of. You go up the generator house, which you said is gone, and that's awesome because
Yeah.
it was just covered in graffiti and was very dangerous with all the big holes and um,
When I climbed up the ladder and I got up into the catwalk, and my girlfriends were down below and they're like taking pictures. And then we all took turns, going up there so we could get pictures of ourselves on this catwalk. And I do remember coming back down that ladder backwards, of course, feet
yeah,
first. And I stepped back and I was just busy chatting with the girls. And I felt my heel hover over dead air and that big hole. I almost fell into it and go like, holy cow, I almost
yeah.
died. Like, if you get hurt out there, that's not going to be a good thing.
No, and I have been hurt out there and had to walk back.
Oh my God. What happened?
I I don't know, something weird happened, and I was going up the trail, and it got really steep, and suddenly I felt this crunch and felt the muscle in my calf just tear. And
Ow.
oh, it was horrifyingly painful. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably about say a mile into this, and I have to walk out. Also, I've twisted my ankle and other stuff up on the Backbone Trail up there.
Oh,
So
that's such a
over
nice
the
trail.
years, it's like, yeah. Oh, the Backbone Trail. You go up from the generator house, and did you see the barn, white barn with the cyclone fence around it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just off to the left of that, you go across the stream, and there's a trail that goes up a lot of switchbacks up the hill up to the Backbone Trail. And it's beautiful, great views. And then you can go down to the park,
Mm-hmm.
or you can walk over to Topanga, which connects to the Backbone Trail going to Will Rogers. And there's a place called Lone Oak with this one lone oak tree right in the middle of the trail. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I am always grateful that there's spaces like that, despite how busy LA is. Yeah, the Backbone Trail is awesome. There's two different places that I've been at on the trail because it goes forever, right? I mean, do you know where it starts and ends?
Starts at Will Rogers and goes up, ends up in, I think, near Point Magoo.
Yeah, one of the
Okay.
places I was going to mention is the Julian Loop Trail. And it's actually pretty close to Point Magoo. And it's just a beautiful trail. There's like you're going through some meadows and then you're doing a little bit of rock scrambling, some climbs. You know, of course, there's signs all over the place warning you about mountain lions, and there's a little bit of challenge to this trail, which is really cool. And at the end you can go through a tunnel under the PCH and you end up on the beach, so you get this beautiful sunset there at the end. And then the other spot right at the border of Los Angeles and Ventura counties is an old Chumash cave. And there's a lot of them there, Chumash Indian caves that were very sacred to them. And some of them are just totally off limits to visitors. But there's one, it's ridiculous to try to get into this. It was just Cameron, Sophie, and I. We got there and we're looking at the entrance, and there was some wacky, I don't know what this guy was doing, but he had a giant knife on him. And I'm like, yeah, he just went into the cave. We are not
Oh
going
my
in there
God.
after him. After driving all the way out there, it was just very disappointing. So we sat on the trail and waited for some group to walk by so we could ask if we could join them. So here comes these three people. It was a guy and his girlfriend, and she had her little teeny little like teacup Chihuahua like dog in her pack. And then there was another guy with them. And I told them what happened. And the two guys are like, oh, we're Navy SEALs. Like, we're going to pound this guy if we see him. Yeah, you can join us. You know? I'm like, all right, this is the group that I am going with. Like, we're best friends now, you know? And we got to the entrance, and thank God that we were with them. They were like in tip top shape. And they ended up having to help us get into the cave because there's a rock that is very high. And if you're there by yourself, I don't even know how you would climb it, you know? So they either pulled us up or pushed us up or both, depending on who was in front of us and who was behind us. And so we got into this cave, and it's got kind of like the rock itself looks like a bunch of curtain folds. Like there's drapes that are made out of this sandstone or whatever it is. And there's almost like an altar, this natural altar formation in the middle, and little chambers, little rooms around there, and like these natural steps. Just, I guess, I don't know if the Chumash had kind of formed these steps or if it's just from so many people going in there, but it does have like these natural steps. And then you can go climb up a bunch of rocks. It's like almost like out of an Indiana Jones movie. And you end up going through a hole. And there's a lot of holes in the ceiling, not like huge ones, but there are openings in the ceiling of this cave. So like light beams in there, the sunbeams come through and it just lights it up really, like it's beautiful. But there's a big hole. And if you jump just right, grab the edge, hoist yourself out, you can end up on top of the cave. So we did that. And then as we're standing there, here comes the guy with that big old giant knife. And I'm like, that's him. You know, like, I don't know. He kind of disappeared. I think he looked scared that there were so many of us. And I'm sure that, you know, the Navy SEALs weren't making him feel comfortable at all. And then they said that they were going to go to Castle Peak. So once you're up on top of the cave, there's a very treacherous trail. And they kind of told us that, and they're like, but don't worry, just don't look down. You know, we know the trail. And we leaped over these huge gaps. And, you know, like if you fell into the gaps, it was just filled with prickly pear cactus, a bunch of opunches that were in there with like very long thorns.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm just thinking, oh my God, if my kids get hurt, there's going to be like Child Protective Services are going to be at my door going, what kind of a mother are you? You know? It was challenging. It was great. We ended up getting to Castle Peak, and I have a couple of pictures of that. It was just really spectacular. And then you go down the other side, and these guys are talking about like what they were going to put on the grill, and the girl's like talking about inviting her girlfriends and stuff. And we're getting ready to go down, and it looked like just a normal little trail, but there were a bunch of cholas, or what are those cactuses? They're really awful cactuses. So there were like a bunch of those. There were like 3 very active beehives. And I'm like, okay, I think we're going to be okay. I'm not really afraid of the bees. They're like, if we don't mess with them, they're not going to mess with us. But if too many of us walk past these hives and they kind of like perceive danger, that'll be a problem. So then there was a lot of very fine silt on top of those rocks. And it was just rock and silt. And we start walking down, and I landed on my ass. And then I was just going straight down towards the cactuses.
Oh my God.
And luckily, one of those SEALs did reach out and stop me. I'm sure that he was very sore at the end of the day, because he did hang on to me and, you know, like got me back on the trail, and we were able to get down without really being hurt. So by the grace of God, that's the group that we ended up with, you know, and nobody got hurt. And we were able to see everything that we wanted to see and not have to worry about the guy with the knife. So that was like a really cool one. And that's right there on the Backbone Trail.
What a great adventure.
Yeah. I feel like it doesn't matter where I go, it turns into an adventure, because I'm just so curious, you know, and I'm like, you know, somebody walks by and goes, hey, there's this cool thing over there. And I'm like, oh, let's go check it out. You know, I'll come with you. You know, I'm surprised I don't have terrible stories, but when you're on the trail, like you kind of know who it's probably okay to walk along with, and, you know, who you like totally need to stay away from.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of your pictures, and you go to some awesome places.
Yeah, there's just so many cool places around here. And you know what I've noticed is, because social media did ruin the world. I really feel like it ruined nature, because you show up to a place like Eaton Canyon, and everybody knows that there's a big waterfall at Eaton Canyon. And I remember Sophie and I were like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. So you see the pictures, you know, and you just see this waterfall, and you know that there's some rock scrambling, and it's not like the easiest trail, but there's a brook, and there's this beautiful canopy of like birch trees and cedars, and it looks so Storyland like, you know, it's just gorgeous. And so you show up thinking, oh, I'm going to go on a hike. And every single person had the same idea as you. And I just remember telling Sophie, I think there's more people here than there are at Disneyland today. I could not believe the level of crowds. And I've been struggling lately about posting photographs and identifying what the place is, because it is all over social media. So it's really hard to go to pristine places or low populated trails. And so I do try to hit like the really hard trails, or the ones where, it's like whatever you're going to see is 14 miles in, and then you have to come 14 miles back because people don't have interest in spending that much time getting to a place. And so that's where, some of those pictures are taken out. But like if it's really crowded, I do stuff with the angles, or, like I take a quick shot in between people walking through. I make it look less populated, or, like I take a shot of an area where it might be really crowded, but I'm taking a picture in between the crowds, and then I'm cropping the crowd on the left and the right of the photograph.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I found, you know what, I'm not going to give away that secret. I'm not going to give away the secret for when you can go on a busy trail and it won't be busy. I'll let people figure that out, because if I give away that secret, it'll be busy 24/7.
Oh, yeah. No, I've been struggling with that too. I wanted to do a Rustic Canyon video to show, how to get in there, where to go, what to watch out for, always carry a flashlight, prepare to possibly be in there for the night. A lot of people get lost in there, or walk up the hill into the neighborhood and are like, knocking on people's doors. Yeah, a lot of people don't know what's in there. And I wanted to show them what's in there, because it's amazing history and incredible beauty. But I haven't done anything yet, because I've been fighting with myself over that. What do I really want to do that? Because some of the dangers are there now. I don't want anybody to get hurt or them to destroy the environment.
I agree. I just, I've noticed over the years how noticed a lot of the things that trouble me when people show up at places without focus of being stewards of the environment. And, some of the things, like especially
That's right,
drives me crazy, is when I go to a really nice trail and somebody with a loud radio.
Yeah.
You'll see when you go to like some of the nature websites, some of the zoological websites, especially for kids, where it's like, what's the loudest animal on the planet? And they, they're like howler monkeys, or, a charging rhino, or an elephant trumpeting or something. And the answer is humans. We are the loudest animals on this planet. And
absolutely,
noise pollution is causing the extinction of other animals. They can't hear each other when they're sending mating calls to one another. So if they can't hear each other and they can't mate, there goes that insect, or there goes that bird, or there goes that lower reptile, because it's usually those are the animals that are going extinct because of noise pollution and light pollution. Yeah, I mean, even Amazonian villages where, tribal communities deep in the Amazon are suffering from noise pollution, from the cars, the planes, even when I'm very, very quiet here, I can hear the rush of traffic from a highway a mile or so away. I can hear that. So, I feel like it's really important to let people know that when you are out in nature, that is the song. That's the song that you need to be listening to. Don't turn on the radio, because you are disrupting nature by doing that. The littering just really has to stop. It is, I saw, and I'm sure you saw this when you were a ranger, the squirrels that run over and eat plastic because it's got chocolate on it, and they're taking that to their den and feeding it to their babies, or they're eating it, and then they're dying because
Yeah.
it tastes like food, but it can't be digested. And chocolate doesn't occur in the forest. So they stop eating their natural foods. Yeah. So, that and the graffiti artist
Yeah.
on a rock out in the middle of this trail. Like you end up get to the end of a trail and you have to make like a left turn and scramble up a bunch of rocks. And when I got up there, I could smell spray paint, that aerosolized spray paint in the air. And
Oh, that's
that was
nasty.
one of the things, was that there were a lot of people there. So
Yeah.
I'm like, do you smell that? Do you smell? People would walk by. Do you smell spray paint? Like I was being like a total ass about it. But, my intent was to embarrass whoever it was. And I did that. It was funny because then I see this guy, and this girl behind us, and the guy like grabs his backpack and the girl's like, put the cans away, put the cans away.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
so they did. They put the cans back in the backpack and they scrambled down. But yeah, you get deep into these trails and people are carving the trees and graffitiing the rocks. And yeah, so it's just something that I think about when I start to divulge a location, that is special to me, or that, is
Sure.
somewhat pristine.
Yeah. There's like, yeah, probably about this time of year, California newts. They're orange and they're mating inside these streams. And
oh my gosh, how cute. I don't think I've ever seen one.
I'll send you a picture.
I'm wondering, like, what are the biggest lessons that you learned from being a park ranger and being so close to nature all the time? And what was like the most surprising thing that you learned or that happened, or, that you have come away with from that time period?
One of the things I learned were people will do some foolish stuff. I think it was around Mother's Day or something. The park was full of people. He picked up a baby rattlesnake to show the kids who were around him, and the snake bit him. And the paramedics came. Baby rattlesnakes can dump a lot of venom. Anyways, the guy's wife comes over and she's like, "Oh God, he's always doing stupid stuff like this."
That's great.
Yeah, there were always, lost hikers or mountain bikers that crashed on the trail or hit somebody. It was very interesting working there. A lot of animals. A lot of the people were nice. It was nice to make some good friends. But a lot of the history, we were told to tell people. We find out later that whoever did the research on it got it wrong. Like
history rewrite.
Pretty much. There was this calf, stuffed calf, inside the ranch house. The calf had died on this guy's ranch. I forget who it was, but it was a friend of Will Rogers. And he had it stuffed, mounted, and had wheels put on it underneath it. And
oh my gosh, that sounds like something that a fraternity house would really like to get its hands on.
This was it was a roping calf, and Will would sit there on his porch swing or chair or wherever and rope it indoors, and you could pull it back and forth. But one of the stories was that Will roped the ears off it because it had no ears. And we saw a picture of this calf back in the 1970s. And it's like, well, Will had been dead a long time because it still had its ears. And
That's funny that they would, come up with something like that. What is the rarest animal or like the coolest sighting?
Oh, yeah, lots of deer. Oh, actually, you were talking about how people's litter and trash affect the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like on the weekends, the deer would actually go over to the trash cans and tip them and, rummage through the trash.
Oh man. What do deer eat? Like what were they looking for? Apples or like do they actually then start liking things
They
chocolate?
start liking things they shouldn't.
Uh,
So
it's a problem. It
it's a
definitely is
problem,
a
yeah.
problem. Um, did you run into any wildcats?
I've tried.
I tried.
No,
You're kidding
seriously, I
me.
was like hiking all over the place. Looking, I've seen mountain lion tracks. I've seen dead carcasses of deer. There was one that was just killed in Rustic Canyon by a mountain lion. And I guess I had disturbed its feeding, and I don't know where it was, but it was around.
Did that stress you out that you came upon its dinner and it was right there and it might come and try to defend its food?
No, that never really crossed my mind. The only thing it would defend would be its cubs. They pretty much just leave that, and then they'll come back to it, drag it off, maybe hide it. So I wasn't worried about that. Plus, there was a lot of food, a good food source, rabbits, deer, all sorts of stuff up there. They stayed away from humans.
Have you heard recently, I think all of these mountain lions have a letter P
Yeah,
and a
for
number
puma.
associated with them. Oh, for puma.
Uh-huh.
Ah, thank you. I was always wondering what's P stand for. So P22 took a little stroll around Los Angeles and ended up over in the Silver Lake area, which is like dangerous to people and this mountain lion. But I guess he's back over in the Griffith Park area.
I vaguely heard something about that, but didn't catch the full news story.
He's been strolling through the neighborhoods there, which, hopefully trackers figure out how to help him stay in his usual territory.
Well, a lot of it is encroachment. And also their food sources are becoming limited because, this drought that we're in and the fires, and a lot of their habitat has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And people leave their pets out. So it's it's easy pickings.
Yeah. I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Of Wolves and Men by Barry Lopez. And there was a time period, I think it was in Alaska, where the wolves were coming into the city limits and wolves were coming down and eating their pets and taking off with them, which is really terrible. And so there had to be a lot of retraining, for lack of a better word, of the community. And it covers some of the stuff that you're talking about.
I wanted to answer your other question. What have I seen at the park that, is unusual? I've seen bobcats, and, if they see you, they'll run. So they aren't a problem. The other thing was fox. They do live in the mountains around here, and they're very rare to see because they are so well hidden.
They're so elusive, aren't they? I don't think I've ever seen a fox.
Yeah. Seen a lot of coyotes. I've actually laid on the polo field there at night, looking at the stars, and actually one time had a pack of coyotes just run right by me.
Wow. Coyotes
it didn't bother me.
Chills down my spine because they have a very kind of sinister, it's almost like this laughter sound. It's not really a bark.
Yeah, it is disturbing, the howling and the screeching that they make. And
yeah, for sure.
But They are a necessary part of the environment. I mean, they also eat rodents and keep the other populations in check.
Yeah, there's a documentary, The Biggest Little Farm. And the thing was that they had chickens, and there was like one day where like the coyotes just got in there and they killed the chickens. And somehow they were able to divert the coyotes they had like this horrible gopher problem and their trees started to fall over. And that took care of that problem. They left the chickens alone and the gopher population was kept in check. Yeah, I think like every single one of these episodes is just going to solidify a little bit more that I am like the world's biggest nerd. Like it was neat. I'm going to have to go visit Apricot Farms because it is near us.
Count me in on your nerdiness.
Thank you.
I'm totally there.
But I have another question for you. You mentioned when you get your leg, and that's coming up soon, right?
Yeah. We are waiting for the new foot. March 30th, I think I should have it. Hopefully sooner, but don't know. I lost my foot and ankle on my right side to partly diabetes and partly to just wear and tear on it because I've broken it and sprained it so many times over my life that there was a lot of damage. But the real damage was, after I went into the emergency room and they sent me over to the orthopedic surgeon the next day and they put on a cast and I was walking around a little bit on it and didn't think it was going to be that much of a problem. And the cast wore a hole into my ankle and the doctors could not repair it or rebuild it. So they said it's easier just to take it off. It was weird losing it, but it feels better and feel healthier. I tried out my new foot and ankle a few days ago, and I could walk really nice.
Did
better.
You really? That's so cool.
Yeah, it had to happen, and it was scary, but now I'm glad I did it because I can walk better than I could before, or will be able to walk better. Can't wait. There's this sleeve. It's silicone, and you roll it up your leg, and they take scans from that. And basically, the foot is not really going to be seen. I mean, there is a prosthetic, a kind of like a rubber, basic foot they put over the prosthetic. But the prosthetic is kind of like blade-like. It has these two, it looks like a deer's foot in front of it, where my toes should be. It fits into the shoe very nicely, and it's self-stabilizing, and can't wait to get out there.
Yeah. So do you have to wear special shoes or just regular shoes?
Yeah, no, just regular shoes.
Medical technology is the most amazing thing. And I think even more amazing than that is your attitude towards this, because it wasn't very long ago that this happened.
No, I lost it October 28th.
Do you have that? I have so many questions about this. I'm sorry.
Ask me. I'm there. I'll tell you.
Do you have that phantom foot syndrome or phantom limb syndrome?
Yes. Sometimes I do. Yeah. Like when I move the muscles, I can still feel the bottom of my foot. I can still feel my toes. I feel a lot of my foot. Like sometimes there will be an itch on the top of it. And
I was going to ask you that, and I'm like, no, I shouldn't ask them that. But yeah, do you get these phantom
feelings? Yeah. Phantom pain? No. Phantom feelings? Yes. And it's wild. It's weird. And, I cross my legs sometimes, and my left leg goes through my right leg, or tap my foot, or I've done a few bonehead things. Once I was sitting on my bed, And I just forgot. And I stepped out into space and crashed to the floor. Yeah, got to remember, it's not there, because you can feel that you're going to step and that you are going to, it's going to be like standing on the floor.
I could see that happening. I mean, you go your whole entire life having a foot, and now it's not there, and it's only been 4 months. Your brain has to kind of go, okay, well, that's not there anymore. So you're going to do stuff like that. I'm just glad you didn't get hurt.
No, I haven't done that yet.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. That is a little difficult to deal with, especially like in rehab. There's things they teach you and some things that they forget to actually teach you. Like they were trying to show me how to use a walker, and I couldn't get my left leg to move forward. And it's a big duh is like, you got to use your arms to push up on the walker so you can actually lift your body up to move that leg forward. And it was actually a physical therapist that came to my home, which taught me how to use that. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. One of the sad things is I've lost a bunch of friends. A lot of people cannot deal with the loss of a limb. It's like, I'm dealing with it. It's, it's not affecting me that badly. Yeah. I mean, I have one foot in the grave. Boom, boom. But
oh my God, I can't believe that.
Literally, the foot is.
Yes.
Who knows what they did with it?
Oh, I was going to ask you if you did something special with it, or, like had some ritual or, something. No.
It crossed my mind to see if I could bring it home and put it on the mantle or something.
No, don't
no.
do that. Oh my God.
Whip it out during Halloween. I don't know.
Well, I do not understand why you've lost friends.
No, they just don't want to, they don't talk to me anymore. Yeah, some have even unfriended me.
I'm definitely not defending them. But people have, like you said, a hard time wrapping their brains around those things, or it triggers past traumas in them that they personally need to work through. And it feels like it's at your expense because they were important people in your life, but they're definitely not going to be able to contribute in a positive way to your journey, to your healing with those hangups. You almost, you were really sick, super sick, because prior to that you had, was it triple bypass surgery?
Oh, yeah, triple bypass. It was discovered after I broke my ankle. And the doctor told me that if I go into surgery for my ankle to have that repaired, I was going to die on the table. So they did a triple bypass. I had what was called a widowmaker. And now I feel great. It'll be even better when I can actually get up and walk. But I'll be able to, get my cardio up and all that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And that's only really a couple of weeks from now. But, you went through a lot in the last year, and you've come out with, honestly, you're so inspiring. I know I read what your brother wrote, that you are the bravest person he knows. And I have to agree with that. I couldn't imagine having to deal with triple bypass surgery, having your foot removed, going through all of the things that you've gone through, and coming out with just such a great perspective on life.
Thank you.
Yeah, you seem so grounded. You have this great sense of humor. You got these wonderful stories to share that I'm just honored that we are friends. And you're still the same Anthony that I've always known.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I love you. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I love you too.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's actually something I want to do is help people to get through this or whatever they're going through, kind of lift them up, because it's a hell of a thing. And because depression is a huge monster that comes with this. If you're going through it, it takes a long time. It took me a long time to get out of the depression. Actually, you were the one who helped me out of it. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would be really just tough. There's no way around it. So I'm happy that I was there to help and be something of a support to you. Those thoughts are like, pulling bubble gum out of your hair or something, it's just like you have to
Yeah.
extract that bubble gum and get it out of there so that your hair looks nice again.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with these thoughts. So definitely
Right. So you can
something
move
to,
forward.
yeah.
That's one of the things. I mean, getting my leg cut off was traumatic, but those thoughts is what really hurt me.
There's I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's like a trauma scale that they use in psychology. And at the top of traumatic events are loss of a loved one, death, divorce, a breakup, or loss of a body part, losing your job. So those are, like right up there. And you were experiencing at least 3 of those all at once.
There were a few other things,
And there were
yeah.
probably, so it's inspiring. I know this is like so scary going into this, and you probably felt like you didn't have a choice, but how did you set your fears aside? Were you able to do that at some point because you've recovered so well from them? I mean, like I said, your sense of humor is there. There's a lot, and it hasn't been that long since these procedures. So was there some preparation into going into them?
Well, the other procedures before the amputation, I did have a friend and then, my brother and my aunt. That was support. But I figured with the amputation, it's just, I got to do it. I got to do it because this thing is going to kill me if I don't. And I already got my heart fixed and everything. So I couldn't sacrifice that.
Just coming down to pragmatic thinking.
Right. I gotta do it. Just go for it. Bite the bullet. Just believe and have faith that it is going to get better and be better. And for a long time, it wasn't. It was deep depression. There was really not a lot of people to talk to. There were, the people at the hospital, at rehabilitation, who were nice, and it was hard to just move forward, even though I was, because it was the depression felt like I didn't want to do anything, and anything I loved or liked or music I really liked, stuff that would get me out of this, wasn't working. I couldn't get past there was a feeling of dread, it was, I don't know, kind of hurt me. I'm not even sure how to explain it. But
depression is painful. Yeah, that's that deep sense of loss of depression. I think a lot of people will probably listen to what you were saying and fully understand. It's not a good place to be in, and I'm glad that you have been able to wade through that deep end and come out.
Yeah, I had to fight hard to get out of it. Yeah, I'm kind of where I should be, wanting to work out more, I have my drive back.
Oh, I love that.
Inside.
I am glad that you have your purpose back.
Actually, I'm going to be walking better than I ever have, and it's not going to limit me. I'm going to be able to do anything I want to do. hike where I want to go, still go swimming, still scuba dive, all sorts of stuff.
So what are some of the things you're going to do? Because I know, like, you've got these hikes planned. You're an amazing photographer and photo editor, and you've got all of this creative, artistic background. Yeah. What's the future for Anthony?
The future's bright. One of the first things when I get this new leg is I'm heading straight out to my backyard to garden. I got to paint the walls in my hallway and just around the house because I've scraped them up with the wheelchair.
Oh my gosh.
So that will be nice to actually be able to do that. And put the wheelchair away.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to be able to go walking anywhere I want to again. Actually be able to go to the store again. I'll be able to drive again.
I'm sure that when you get out into your yard, even though you haven't been out there in a year, I bet you're going to uncover some plants and just go, whoa, this is growing. I didn't think it was going to, So,
I've already come across that. Some of the plants I had in pots that I thought were dead, like my grapes. And I'm like, wow, those are really resilient. I also, I've had my brother bring a bunch of the pots and stuff up to the upper patio. And I've been planting all sorts of seeds and stuff. But I got 2 different kinds of pumpkins and hopefully going to get some watermelon going.
Nice. So is there any lessons about yourself and your resilience and strength that you've pulled out of these 2 experiences?
Yeah, you got to enter these situations with humor, be able to make fun of yourself. I believed that I was going to walk again. And I had a few people telling me it's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to walk right away. And it's like, I just did last week.
Wow.
Walked, no problem. The doctor didn't want to send me out with the leg because it's not completely ready yet. But he said he was impressed with how well I did and how I was so ready to go. Yeah, it's not going to stop me. No, you got to look at these things positively and, pretty much don't believe anybody who's going to tell you, it's going to be harder or more horrible than you think it is, and it's just going to get worse. No, it didn't get worse. The depression was worse, but everything else is getting better.
Yeah, and it's kind of like 2 different systems, right? Your mind and your body, they're separate. Your mind resides in your body, but physically it's like everything else is getting better and your mind just needed to catch up. And I think that, you have to give yourself some room and be gentle with the fact that you were depressed, because you have to give yourself that space because it's a pretty traumatic event. And I think that there's a huge transitional phase that you have to go through just to process that these events have happened to you and that you've lived through them.
There is a little PTSD there.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have that, but the resiliency that you've shown in recovering from this, pretty soon you will literally be putting one foot in front of the other. And I'm going to have to send you this really cool song. I think it's called One Foot.
Is it from the one of those Christmas shows when we were kids?
No, this is it's a rock band. And it's like, metaphorically speaking, he's like, I'm getting one foot in front of the other. And then at the end, he's like, whoa, look at me. I can walk and now I'm running. So I will send you that.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I am looking forward to you getting your foot.
There's a few more muscles that need to be worked on, but a Pilates table and a reformer. Yeah, it's going to take a little while, but or maybe not that much. I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to see once I get that foot. And I've been rebuilt, and
the bionic man.
Pretty much.
I hope that you enjoyed that episode and that you're able to go on more adventures and challenge yourself to overcome the things that hold you back. You are enough. As always, please keep your questions and your suggestions coming. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the others, please be sure to rate it because that helps move my podcast closer to the top of searches so that my friends and I can reach more people. Speaking of friends, as always, I've got more In the Company of Friends talks coming up, lists with Sophia, and so much more. So be sure to follow me on the socials and on the .com, where I post updates, upcoming topics, recipes, and lots more. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the .com at The Queen Trell Podcast. That is TheQuintrelle Podcast. I am still Annan, the Queen Trell, and until next time, I wish you courage, passion, adventure, grace, elegance, and beauty.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Whoa, that's a weird feedback.
Oh, God, yeah. Hello there.
Hello! Yay.
There you are.
This is silly. This is so bad. I had my headphones on and they're kind of noise canceling, and I could hear you, and I was like, gosh, he doesn't sound like he's right in my ear. And I must have had him on for like a good hour of the time that we were talking, and then I realized that they weren't even plugged in. So,
oh my God, Phil.